So I have a few motors and some ESCs here, and mainly this is to help some of you not waste your money and get a better idea on what to get. Now, some of these are budget, some of these are a little more expensive. Now, the first thing, I'm going to talk about GoolRC. Now, GoolRC, these are incredibly inexpensive. You can get them online. Amazon actually carries them. This particular one, let's see, here we go, I have the specs right here. So this is a 3300 kV, so this is a 3660 motor. This is the same size as the Hobbywig 3660s. So this would be, think about this as a budget Hobbywig. Now I say that lightly. I will take the Hobbywig over Gool anytime, but this is less than half the price. So as of this video, this is probably somewhere around $60 US maybe, the combo. Again, this is just good for starters. Now, a quick note, you do have to mind the gearing. So if you're installing this in an Arma Sentin, or even a Traxxas Slash for that matter, just watch the gearing. These things do enjoy getting hot. So that's the only thing about these. Now, actually I should use this one. I have a few of these motors, so I can actually move this one off to the side. So here's a brushed motor. Now, the stock motors in Arma vehicles, your basic Arma vehicles such as the Granite, Sentin, etc., they're going to be this size. Traxxas, well, the Slashes, Bandits, Rustlers, etc., they're going to be this size. So this one actually came out of a Fortec, if I'm not mistaken. But the cans are very similar in size. So if I were to place it here, this one, because of the tabs, it actually extends a little farther. Now this is a brushed motor. You can see the brushes in there. Well, maybe. This is a brushless motor. So like I said, these actually run really great, and for the price, you cannot beat these. GoolRC is, I would say, one of the best systems out there at price point. Now that's the key thing, at price point. I'm not saying this is the best in the world. Go ahead and get this and you'll beat every other brand out there. No, not at all. But price point, this is the best brushless system that you can get. Now, like I said, this will fit nicely in your basic vehicles. If you want to turn your Fortec, Slash, Sentin, etc. into a brushless vehicle, this is it. Now, one of the things to keep in mind, and sometimes this happens with the ESC, the ESC sometimes will get hot as well. Do not be surprised if you really bash hard if something here separates. So you may want to put a tie strap around this, but don't put it on too tight. Sometimes this will separate off. The heatsink may do that as well. That's something that sometimes happens with the Surpass. But usually once it thermos, it just shuts down, and you just let it cool. You can run it again, it'll thermo, and then it shuts down again. To be honest, the first time it shuts down because it's too hot, you should just check it, do that. Where this potentially gets expensive is once you start adding fans, other things replacing. But if you would do that to any other system anyway, then it wouldn't be an additional cost, it's just a cost that you're already doing. This particular system does have with a Dean style connector, which is nice. These are rated at about 60 amps, same as the Traxxas connectors. I prefer these though. These are nicer. That's one option. So I'll take this box out of the way. This is a 3S system, so that's something I forgot to mention. So this is 2S, also 3S. That's really where you're going to get your additional speed. These motors are actually pretty good when you're running 2S. They can actually keep up with even the Valinium motor on 2S. They'll keep up with Gool for sure, but it's the 3S. Now, one other thing, all of these motors, it doesn't matter which one. If it's geared perfectly for 2S, and then you go 3S or 4S, mind the temperatures, you're probably going to have to gear down. All right. Now, the next one I want to talk about, and this one's actually a really cool motor. Surpass, this is also a very affordable brand. This is about $100, And these things can actually handle a surprising amount of abuse. So this is 120 amp. Really, this is all you need for this system. And this is a particular motor. Now this one over here, this is going to go into a LMT, so low C monster truck. This one's going to go into an ARMA Limitless. That's that build. So I'm just gonna put them together. And these, I have not decided. This one's probably gonna go into a Fortec just for fun. This one's gonna find its way into an SC, SET 410.3, hopefully at some point. But the Surpass, if you're looking for something with a good amount of torque, budget friendly, this is a 3674, so 3674. And for comparison, this is again slash, so you can see the difference in the size. Surpass, yes, these you're gonna have to run gear lower than you would, for example, a Castle. Castle is actually a much better motor, but this is about $100. So that's something else to keep in mind. What is your budget? If your budget is $100, you're probably not going to get the Castle because the Castle is over that. Although if you can afford the Castle, I would recommend going with the Castle over this. But if you want something that's just budget, you're not racing, you're just bashing, this is fabulous. Now, the only thing is, I sort of mentioned it. Now, this is a slightly different design. There used to be another design, I can't remember. Sometimes the heatsink would separate and then it would thermo. So then you had to go in there and, you know, clean it up, fix that, or get a warranty exchange. But that's something to keep in mind. Now, on this type of system, something that I honestly do not like is the fact that it uses Dean's connectors instead of, I think this should be running XT90s, but these do the job. But if you have XT90s, swap them out for XT90s or EC5s, just a better connector, something that can handle the amp draw. But this is a great motor. Now this motor here is 2250, so 2250 kVs, which is not bad. You can run this 4S no problem. You can run this system 4S no problem. Again, just gear down. Temperatures do tend to get a little high on these, so that's something to keep in mind. Surpass, I would say, is very similar to Gool. I'm actually not sure who makes them. I would not be surprised they're made by the same company. Just based on the plastics. I mean, if you grab the Copperhead, for example, this Castle, versus this, there's a very big design difference, but the materials that are used, the plastics, they're very similar. That's something to keep in mind. So budget's the most important thing. You have to be realistic about your budget. It's very easy to build something and then it becomes incredibly incredibly expensive, very expensive. Now we're going to move on to Castle. If you're only going up to 4S Copperhead, this is an amazing ESC. This is a great ESC. This is probably what you should be looking into getting. Now you can get bundle deals with the Copperhead with one of these motors. I actually bought this as a bundle. I believe it was this. This was the bundle, and then I bought this one separately, or maybe it was the other way around. I cannot remember, to be honest. But these I bought mainly because I want to try them out on my Vortex, see how they do, just do a comparison. So a future video. But these are great. Now, yes, you can get the Mamba Monster X. Now, the Mamba Monster X is a much larger ESC. It's going to take a lot more room. So if you're trying to just overpower something like a Vortex because you really want to break it, I'm kidding about the breaking. This is probably something you'd want to go instead of the Mamba Monster X. Now, the Mamba Monster X, I have had capacitors go out on them. Castle, their customer service, to be honest, is amazing. They swapped it out. It did take about 3 months though. But this was in autumn, almost winter of 2020. So, right, if you go back in those dates, you look at what was going on. Okay, 3 months makes sense. Because I believe I placed request around October, and I didn't get it until January maybe, or maybe it was November to February. I cannot remember, to be honest. But these are fabulous. So Copperhead, something you can go with. I'm sure there's someone out there that has probably had an issue with one of them. It's probably a rare issue, but these are great. So we have a Copperhead. Now, if we look at the Copperhead versus this one, again, 3S, 4S. There isn't much difference in size. The Copperhead is a little bit longer, that's it. Notice the difference here, right? Now, just for fun, go ahead and put this on the 100 mark. So here you get an idea of the size. So just subtract 100 from it, so we're at about 54. And looking at about 35. And so this one is approximately 48 by 35. Versus this one. This one's just massive. But I would take the Copperhead ESC over this one anytime, assuming it's within budget. And that's the most important thing, budget. This is about 60, just under 60. 45. So Copperhead's definitely the one I would choose out of these three ESCs right now. Now, motors. All right, you have something like this. It's all going to depend on the weight of your vehicle. So if your vehicle is, let's just say, 2 kilos or under, you don't need these big things. You can just go with something like this. Fortec is about 1,700, 1,800 grams. So it's just under 2 kilos. So just under 5 pounds. Now these you're going to use for something that is larger. This, something that is 2.5 kilos is probably light for these. Something that gets closer to 3 kilos to maybe 4, you're going to be using these motors here. That's something to keep in mind. So these you can use vehicles. To be honest, these will work great on anything that's less than 3 kilos. These will work on anything that is over 2,500 grams to maybe 4,000 grams, which is 4 kilos. These will work fabulously. Now, something like this, notice this one does not have the 5mm shaft. I would probably not use this on a heavy 4-wheel drive vehicle. 2-wheel drive would be fine. Or you can use it on something that goes slow. If it's something that you're maybe crawling, you could use this. Or not necessarily crawling, but say you have a monster truck that's designed to go at a lower speed, you're looking more for torque, you're looking at torque, this is something you would get. If not, if you require something that does a lot of hard accelerating then hard braking, especially hard braking on high friction surfaces, go with the 5mm shaft for sure, which is like this. So let's go ahead and compare the two. You can tell the big difference between the two shafts. Now, let's just say you have a Fortec, you want to overpower it because you feel like braking it. This is amazing. I was surprised. This can actually handle 4S, and this is a high kV motor. Well, I mean 3,200 kV for 4S. That's huge. Again, watch the temperatures, watch your gearing. But 2S, this thing doesn't care. This thing will run forever. So on something such as a Slash or Senton, this thing's amazing. Now on a Senton, if you use something like this, it'll just rip. This thing's great. You can use something like this on a Senton as well. Not just the Senton, but also the Typhoon. So these are great options. This is a great budget option. This is an amazing option. And again, I'll use this motor just to show you the difference. So this one is larger. This one's about the same size. If you count the tabs, that would make this one just a little longer. And then this one is just shorter than the Surpass. So the Surpass, really, it's the slightly longer can that's going to give you that torque. These are pretty well matched. This one's going to run cooler though. I would, if this one's within your budget, I would go with this one. If you want something inexpensive, Surpass does the job. Just watch your gearing. They do like to get hot. GoolRC loves to get hot, so keep that in mind. Surprisingly, I mean, they keep going. So these are some of the things that you want to do. Now this one's a 2400 kV, if I'm not mistaken, 2400. So this is the 1415 series, and this one should be a 1412. 1412. So the 14 series, you're going to get the 36 millimeters. And then depending on whether you get the 12 or the 15, that's going to be the length of the can. This one I believe is 70 millimeters. This one is probably 60. It appears to be 60. It's probably 62. So keep that in mind. I would have to double check the measurements here. Now, you can get a Hobbywig 3660 motor, so that would be, you can get an easy run, for example. Those are relatively inexpensive, about $140, $150 as of this video. They're great systems. Easy run, they're not censored, and that's something else to keep in mind. This is sensorless, sensorless, censored, censored. The censored option is just going to give you a smoother start. These, they might cog up a little when you're just taking off starting. But Hobbywig is actually a very good match, I would say, a good comparison with Castle. The difference between the two, I've never had Castle products go bad on me yet. It's bound to happen. Castle I have, like I said, the Mamba Monster X's, but the customer service is amazing. Hobbywig, I've heard stories. I'm not going to mention anything just because I don't have firsthand experience with their customer service. Now, my top pick, if it's within your budget, is definitely Tekin. Tekin is, I would say, the best by far. Out of all the motors here, it's the best, as well as the ESCs. This is an RX8. If you have seen some of my very old videos, you've probably seen me run one of these on an SET 410.3. Great. I mean, I even dumped one in a very dirty river, took it out, put in some rice for a few days, and then took it out, just replaced the RX, and then ran it, and the thing just runs hard. Same thing with the motor, which is great. Now, this motor here, this is probably one of the most underrated motors that Tekin offers. This one is an 8-scale motor, but this is the T8i, so T8i. This one is a 2700 kV, capable of 4S, so this one screams for its size. Now, it is shorter than the Surpass, and compared to the Castle, it's very close in size. It's probably 2 millimeters shorter than the Castle. Both of these are going to run far cooler than this one. This one's higher kV. Tekin tends to run pretty cool. These would actually be similar as far as how they run. But Tekin, for me, most of these motors have always had a little more torque, and they tend to run cooler than all of the other options. I don't know if it's because of the internals or these massive fins. So these fins are actually quite large. Here, you can barely see them versus these. These really stand out. So if you look at the difference here in the towel, they just have larger fins on these motors, which is great for these. And like I said, this is a 36. So you could fit this in your Fortec 3.0 and run 4S. But to be honest, if you're running 4S on a Fortec 3.0, I'd probably go with this because it's not really heavy enough to do that. But if you run 4S on a Fortec, you're probably going to break it. That's something to keep in mind. And this is the ESC. This is one that is brand new. These ESCs, I mean, I think they're the best for its class. Then again, you're looking at just over $200 for just the ESC. The motor alone is about $150, $160 as of this video. So that's something else to keep in mind, that for the price of this motor, you can get all of this. So keep that in mind. Again, budget's very important. For the price of the ESC, I think you can get, I think it's these. I have to check on the price. I don't remember how much that cost. But that's something else to keep in mind. So now that I have all of these, all right, 5mm shafts. Get that for anything that's heavy. That's going to take a lot of abuse, that you're going to do a lot of hard braking. Smaller shaft, something that's much lighter. Maybe you're not doing hard braking all the time. Keep that in mind. So if you have a big, heavy four-wheel drive vehicle that's going to come in contact with hard acceleration, big jumps, high traction, definitely want the 5mm. I have seen these snap before. Actually, at a carpet track, some guy ended up snapping one of these smaller shafts. Keep that in mind. GoolRC and Surplus, they love to run hot, so watch the gearing. You're going to have to gear them a little lower. So yes, ultimately they are going to be slower than these motors over here. But if you're just bashing, it doesn't really matter. Keep in mind that if you're going, say, 45 miles per hour versus 50 miles per hour, you're not really going to be able to tell the difference. Right? Can anybody really tell the difference? I mean, the average person, say 70, 75 kilometers per hour to 80 kilometers per hour, probably not. Once you start going faster, you can't really tell much of a difference. Plus, you're going to run out of space. Sometimes you may not even be able to use the whole potential of the motor. This works big vehicles, just gear low. So if you are planning on using this, for example, on MT 410, you're probably going to be using a 13 pinion, probably. SET 410.2, you might get away with a 15, somewhere around there. Something like this, you can definitely use a 16, 17. This one, you'll probably get away with it as well. Something like this. Unless you're using 4S, you're not going to be able to get away with this one. This one, you're definitely going to have to gear down a lot lower, or else you're going to burn it up. And honestly, this ESC is amazing. This RX8, that's the Gen 3. If you have a program card, there's a program card, you can access features. Also, you can use that for drag racing. It's actually really good for no prep. These motors over here, they're sensorless, so they are not something I would use for crawling, especially this one, just because of the cogging effect that you can have while starting. But these are really great budget builds. So if, let's just say you want a higher end kit, such as a Techno, which I really like Technos, and you need to save some money for now, just get a Surplus. This system works, right? If it's within your budget, definitely get a Tekin. Right? You can get something like this. Then again, for a MT 410.2, you can watch my build video. I actually used a Surpass system on that. That's for a buddy. But I would actually get a Tekin system for it, and I would get the can, the 42, instead of the 36, which is just the T8. Instead of T8i, it's T8, and that's the 40. It's 40 millimeters, 42 with the fins. Also RX8. That would be my choice. They have a variety of KVs. They have a 2250. That's the one I would probably go with, or a 2000. If you go with anything below 2000, you don't need to go that low for that truck. If it were heavier, then maybe. Definitely not for the short course. So out of these, this is my first pick if it's within your budget. If you want something that's still high quality, then I would go for something like this. But, you know, don't be afraid to spend $60, $50, $60 on something like this if you're just replacing a regular brushed motor. That's something to keep in mind. Surpass, price point, GoolRC, price point the best. $50, can't beat that. $100 price point, the best you can get for something bigger, more torque. Now, the best system here, if we forget about budget, by far, it'll be the Tekin. So those are things to consider. Well, I hope this side-by-side comparison and talk was useful. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not, and I'll catch you in the next one.
What? Oh, my hair! My tongue! My rod!